Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of the Conica Track Talk series. Today, we're honored to have a guest whose name is synonymous with excellence in track and field. Our guest is none other than Kevin Young, one of the greatest athletes in the history of 400-meter hurdles. Hey, Kevin.
Wow, that's a pretty good intro. How are you doing? It's good to see you once again.
I'm good. I'm good. How are
Yes,
you doing? All good?
I'm fine. I just got back from Paris. I had a wonderful time over there at the Olympic Games, and that was an experience it was an experience at which I had that was it was overwhelming to a point where I really enjoyed myself, met old friends, connected with some old friends, got a chance to see the city a bit.
Yeah,
I
and
had
I
a,
saw you were over there with Snoop Dogg and Simone Biles,
yeah,
and I was
yeah.
like, nice.
That's a whole other story, right? Talk about timing in the universe. I mean, it worked out definitely in my favor, and it was a shock because I guess for me personally, it felt like an official handoff of Paris to LA to having me and Snoop in the booth together, right? I had no idea, no clue that I was going to end up in the show in which I'm in the box with him and Simone Biles, and she was the big shocker to me, to be honest with you.
Atmosphere in the stadium. There were
Exactly.
so many people in the stadium.
I
Oh,
know.
amazing. Yeah,
No.
I'm so glad you got to witness that. So why don't we just dive into your incredible journey and some of your insights? So like
Okay.
I mentioned, you're a legend in the world of athletics, especially in the 400-meter hurdles. Could you start by taking us back to the moment when you first fell in love with track and field and what drew you to the sport?
What actually drew me to the sport was I had a grade school teacher by Miss Karen Hilborn. I was going to Lindbergh Elementary School. I had just moved from Compton to like the edge of Linwood and Compton. So I ended up going to middle school. Elementary school. And she introduced the class to basically field events during our recess. And then over the summer, we actually created a small team. I think I forgot we were called the Lindbergh Flyers or something like that. We had like we actually had little bandanas tied around our head, looking like Kung Fu Kenny back in the 70s. And we ran against other parks and recreations in the city. And that was really, really cool. But she gave me showed me the discipline it was to be an athlete. And I dedicate anything and everything about my 400-meter hurdle race to Miss Karen Hilborn.
That's
And I
amazing.
met
I love
her. I met her I think I met her with you. No, I don't think, but I was at Conica at the Conica event in Denver that they had, that I finally met her there at one of the lunches that they had.
I love that. And that's also inspirational if someone can influence you like that and, be such a positive impact on you. So, the title of our conversation today is Tracks, Spikes, and Records. What do these three elements symbolize for you throughout your career?
Tracks, spikes, and records, and how they take part in my career. So I got to be real specific because I run my mouth all day. First of all, tracks in my career, um, throughout my career, most formatively was the track that I raced on in high school, and I constantly remember that track because it was a dirt track, and it would have glass on it all the time. I could not lie. But the maintenance folks there at the school would have like a little tractor trailer truck piece thingy with a piece of chain link fence on it and a board, and they would ride around, hose down the track, ride around on that little track thing, and all the elements of the glass and the big rocks used to just surface up through the into the chain link fence. But once they cleaned it up and lined it up on the track for us with the chalk, I was ready to go. So that's my first inspiration of tracks, running on tracks.
You don't need to be this humble. You can say I'm an Olympic champion.
Okay,
I
okay,
broke
yeah, yeah, okay.
records. You need to
So we
stop
got,
being so humble, okay? I mean with my introduction, you are more than welcome to, hit
you know what? I got to
it.
pinch myself all the time. I had one of those moments when I was in Paris. I was having lunch with Edward Moses, and it really kind of brought my whole like journey in a full circle.
When I was preparing for the interview, I was watching the race and I saw you broke the world record and you hit the last hurdle. You didn't even run over, you hit the last hurdle and you still broke the record.
Well, the crazy thing is, I had that reflection the other day when I saw those guys race in Paris. I thought about how like the norm is for our top three, four hurdlers to run under 46 and change in that race. And I look back and I said, wow, I reflect 30, 32 years ago, and I actually ran that fast. And I said, had I not
You
clip the
was that.
hole,
Yeah.
throw my exactly. I was the example of 30 years ago. So it really goes into play to which the progression of the sport has taken place, you know, where we are right now. When it comes to that, then we have to talk about track technology.
Let's talk about one of the main things that make all these competitions actually possible, the tracks. Each one
Right.
you ran on has its own little story, you know. Can you share with us some of the most memorable tracks you've competed on and what made them special?
No, the crazy thing is, I'm gonna tell you, this is I don't know if I compete on this track, but this is a track memory. I remember the track in Oslo. And that's the track that Carson Warholm competes on, has competed on many times. But I remember the very first time I went to that, I went to Oslo, and I didn't even run on the track. I was actually as an athlete, and I remember that track used to have standing room only, and everybody would smoke cigarettes at the track meet. I never forget that. This is like,
What?
yes, they had a section. Basically they had I'm not sure that everybody was smoking, but they
But
definitely had a smoking section at the track meet. It was standing room only. It was front row. It was front row, and the athletes were doing their thing
no
on the
way.
track, and folks were standing up smoking cigarettes, and I would never forget that. Uh, and I had a few other episodes like that in my life, but I remember going to Oslo of all places. So now you go to Oslo, you would never think that that particular track had a smoking section, but I'm sure that was the norm back in the day. The track in the Coliseum where they had laid down the track in the Coliseum prior to the Olympic Games in LA in '84, and that was the very first, like one of the very first all weather tracks that I competed on, that I performed well on. Took third in the state meet back in 1984 on that all weather track that they had in the LA Coliseum, which they later ran on during the '84 Olympics. So that whole tie-in with the track surfaces is, and I remember always thinking that I actually ran on the same track that all those Olympians from '84 participated on.
You've seen the evolution of track surfaces over the years, right? How have tracks changed since the beginning of your career? Like, what was the surface like when you set your world record in Barcelona, for example? And
Right.
how do you compare it to today's like
Well, you
tracks?
know what, with the different track manufacturers that we do have in this day and age, I know over the years have definitely been different surfaces and complexions of a track material. Starting off running on dirt tracks, having an opportunity to run on all weather tracks is really difficult to find that sweet spot, I would say, among track surfaces, but definitely need a track surface which is going to be out there to be able to benefit you as an athlete, um, while you're training as well as while you're performing in major competitions.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not like I'm only 25 now, but I started running when I was like in Namibia, and we also used to run on like the sand tracks, not even like rolled out or cast running
Exactly. They
track.
they run on
Yeah,
dirt in Australia a
yeah.
lot, not dirt, but in
Or like
grass
the
as
ash.
well as in Jamaica. So,
Yeah.
having a track, I mean, a lot of times it's really a privilege to be able to say you run on the track, because we know in many countries they do a lot of training on grass fields, and actually have
Mhm.
track meets on grass fields like they do in Australia. But
Australia, yeah.
I can imagine training on sand. No, that could be that's pretty challenging.
I think yeah, you spoke the truth when you said that. I mean, practicing and stuff on not so hard tracks is probably better for the athletes as well, even with like getting hurt and
Definitely,
injuries and
definitely.
all that too.
Definitely. I
Yeah.
mean, I figured that out many times. But when you come from a background where you're on a dirt track, anything that's all weather, you're
And
appreciative of. You get on there, you're like, oh, I'm going to be faster out the gate, right? So,
and by that time, I had even proven to my parents that I was good at track, so I didn't even get spikes yet. So it was me barefoot on that
no,
ash track
exactly,
running.
exactly. Bare,
Yeah.
barefooted. That'll give you enough
Yeah.
confidence that'll take you to the next, to the next level. Um,
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
but you mentioned a question about I just look at the gap, the 30 plus year gap pretty much between my world record and it being broken by Karsten. And in that
in
in that
21,
gap,
right?
yeah, yeah. And in that gap, all the technological advances that we've had in our in the generations, right? So I bear witness to it, you bear witness as well. So I think it's pretty comparable for athletes to be running as fast as they are on these surfaces now. You mentioned the question about spikes on the tracks and the differences that are in the manufacturing of the spikes. I remember this. There's a far big difference now, because I remember basically the shoe companies with their shoe design reps, they basically used to just knock each other spike plate off. It was a general spike plate on the bottom of the shoe, and you can take that, remodel it, and just put a different upper on it. You can take the three stripes off the shoe and put a swoosh on it, or you can put whatever your company logo could possibly be. But the plate would necessarily be a plate that's different than a competitor um, right next door. And I think that was probably standard practice because what you typically had was athletes had a comfortable shoe with one particular company. Their contract went out, and it was like, well, if you can design a shoe that basically looked like this, moves like this, and change this or that, and the designers know because, like I said, even the designers hopscotch to different companies in their career. So
Yeah.
it's not crazy to see all the shoes look the same, perform the same, got the same materials in it. It's like the sort of I was like par for the course in that particular industry.
Before we head completely into the shoe direction,
Uh,
in your opinion, how much can a track surface contribute to an athlete's performance, especially like in the 400 hurdles for Sydney, for example, or Femke, or even Carsten?
well, I remember reading a report. Well, actually, it was a conversation that Edward Moses was having with astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson, and they're talking about, I mean, just specifically running and being a left leg lead as a 400-meter hurdler, right? How much of an advantage that would be, how in the course of the race you would actually gain 2 meters on your right leg
Because you
lead.
run on the inside of the lane. I was left
Exactly.
leg lead.
So now,
I
so now
know.
we're yeah, so now we're talking about track surfaces and shoe technology, but they were saying the give back between now, if you look at the new track surfaces and the technology of shoes with the carbon fiber, you get even much for 3% energy give back. So say for instance, in my that if that differential will be about 0.94 seconds, 0.94 seconds subtracted from either my world record time as well as Edward Moses' world record time. So if you go 4702 minus 0.94, whatever that number is, I'm gonna pull out my trusty calculator. It'll come out to 46.08 seconds. That was his time. If you take my time of 46.78 minus 0.94, it'll come out to 45.84. So he would be a 46 flat 400-meter hurdler. I would be a tick under him as a 45.84 400-meter hurdler. Carson has the world record as a 45.94.
Yeah.
So so basically based upon the conversation they were saying with the energy of the shoes giving back and the new track technology, it's pretty relative. It's pretty relative, but we'll put it this way: it's relative enough for me to feel comfortable in my time 30 years ago when I performed. But me knocking down the hurdle as well as me throwing my hand up. It makes me
Yeah.
feel comfortable that I probably, based upon the math, I could be competing with these guys uh, right along with them right in this day and age.
Yeah, but even with the different spikes and the different track technology which we have today and stuff, I think it would have might have been even faster, you know? So
Yeah, I love
yeah,
to think of it like this, that to me, it really is the training that I know that they had to do to get there. I know what I had to do in order to get as fast as I was able to get, and how to mentally prepare myself to perform that way on that level on those stages. And so,
yeah,
of course, you're appreciative of the times in which you may get, but I really understand and reflect personally the steps and the orientation which these athletes had to put themselves through. And I know it's hard work. It's a lot of sacrifice. So that to me, I see that as the respect that is deserving of those type of times. And that's any athlete that we know, because we're track and field, folks. We know how hard it is and what it takes to get to those levels. And
yeah, and the
when you
mental
get that,
aspect of it too, and
yeah,
the sacrifices. Well, I like to listen to Lea Sprunger. She said it's not necessarily a sacrifice because it's your choice, but you still have to, eat right, sleep right, do this, do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
You can't
Yeah.
go or to parties, or you have to have your good balance of I want to make the Olympics, or I want to, be
Mhm.
this track star, so I can't do some of the other things my friends might be doing.
True. That is so true. And I think that sets athletes in any particular sport apart from their peers because you really take yourselves and you isolate yourself to do well in whatever event that you're focusing in on. It really kind of gives you that inspiration to move forward. Thankfully enough for me, it was track and field. I thought it would be basketball, but it turned out to be track, and I'm so happy of the opportunity that and the individuals that I met along this particular journey because there was a lot of folks that I put on pedestals. I was like, I never thought that I ever crossed paths in my lifetime with them, and we've become real good friends. Um, it's really shocking to me because I'm still a track fan. I am to this day. I see these younger athletes. I fan out totally, and they don't even know my background. They look at who this old guy, all in my all in my
I
face.
know
Like
exactly,
yo,
exactly,
I don't
exactly
need
what you
no
mean.
harm.
When I was watching your race, when I was preparing for the interview, my heart was beating. I was like, oh my God, look how beautiful it's right. Like this is and this wasn't even a live video or anything. This was just you running back then, and I was like freaking
I am the
out.
same way. I'm the same way when I'm in the lobby here in Zurich at the world class meeting. And I get opportunity and I meet these young athletes. First of all, it's always a reflection of when I was a young athlete making an Olympic team at 21, 22 years old and just bright lights, being kind of not necessarily thrown in this thing, but I'm here now. What are my own personal expectations? What are my friends' expectations? I mean, what are everybody's expectations? But most importantly, what are mine? And it's really easy to lose yourself in all that and not really be able to focus on what you need to do as an athlete. But when you can figure that out, that's wonderful. But I mean, but me personally, as old as I am now, I reflect on that and say, these young athletes have a lot more to deal with social media, with these smartphones, and
But
the
then again,
expectation.
we
Like,
or they have
I had the criticism from my circle and folks who really gravitated toward the sport specifically and closely to me. That's the only place I can get the criticism. But now you got people a million miles away and chime in and have something to say about
watching everything
your
you do.
race. Any and everything you do, they have, and if you're not strong enough, um, it'll pick you apart. It'll affect the way
Yeah.
you run. It'll affect the way you compete. It'll just affect you in general and just really kind of get you out of your comfort, out of your where you need to be, out of your mental health, your mental space.
I mean, but on the bright side, also with social media and everything, it's easier for athletes to make money because of sponsorships
Yo,
and
you know
brand
what?
deals.
You're so
So
right. That's the two-edged sword of it. And,
yeah,
and you gotta
yeah.
and when you allow yourself in that arena, you gotta allow that criticism to come your way. You have to be strong enough. And I think the best way to utilize that energy is definitely try to profit from it and somehow and that means to
Yeah.
brand yourself to
Yeah, or at least make sure you have a good enough support system that when the hate comes or
exactly
the hate
exactly
comments or something, that you can, ignore
shake
them,
it
or that you
off.
have a team who deletes them or something like that.
It's tough. Yo, it is so tough. And I would say, folks always say, well, they're making a kind of money, all these disgruntled athletes, all these different generations. I said this, the degree of criticism that they have to go through in their life, um, trying to be who they are in the sport that we all know and love, it's so hard. It's so hard. It's difficult. I know it's difficult for them. For me, I maneuvered it and it wasn't that bad. But I see now. I mean, like I said, I was actually able to. If I was upset and depressed or something, I can go into Drake Stadium when the lights were out. I can go on the bleachers and I can sit there and cry my head off. I wouldn't have to worry about somebody there with a smartphone following me,
Filming you, yeah.
I mean and I could be lonely in the cafeteria in my own little corner and be depressed, and then friends come over and help me out if I'm in the dorms back in the day, and it was no big deal. But I couldn't imagine a kid being depressed, crying because they had a bad day on the track, and they're just tearing up thinking about whatever their performance was, and somebody giving it its own different narrative and spitting it out to the world, and then they have to try to diffuse that particular conversation. of something that really wasn't what someone said it was, and I had to go, ooh, I'm so glad I'm not part of that. But I'm still glad that we do have the technology in which folks can go back in time and see the races in which I was a part of. Because
Yeah.
a lot of times I've never seen these races because I participated in them. And these are,
Yeah.
and I'm not talking about the ones that are broadcast for the world to see. These little small little meets in Germany, these little small little meets in Switzerland, those small little meets in Sweden and Hengelo and Malmo and places like that, or in Italy, where someone, they had a little local feed.
Let's talk a little bit about your legacy. You set a
Ooh,
world record in the 400-meter hurdles, and that stood
yes,
for
yes.
many years. What did breaking the record mean to you at that time, and how
You
do
know
you
what?
reflect on it now?
Great. I mean, I know folks, it means a lot for the simple fact the record prior to that was Edwin Moses' record, 47:02. And that record was cherished not by individuals who wanted to break it, but as well as the world who saw that race and saw that Edwin Moses exemplified that particular race. And I mean, that was his race. He's the legend of it. So we can't say the 400-meter hurdles without mentioning his name. So when I broke his record, it just pretty much stamped me in history as that individual that broke his record. And I tell folks, regardless if my record had gotten broken by Karsten, for me breaking Edwin Moses' record personally, I mean, and Carson may feel the same way about my record. Like, well, shit, Kim, I broke your record. So he may reflect upon it, but I, as well as the other hurdlers, we all know that it had not been for the stage in which Edwin set for us, the level of persistence, consistency, tenacity. I mean, literally, I had the opportunity when I was in Rome. I mean, excuse me, not Rome, but in Paris, to sit down and have lunch with Edwin, and it meant so much to me to have to share all this conversation about track. I'm literally listening to him talk about track and field, having lunch with him, and I'm just in my head really just pinching myself, literally just pinching myself. And I'm sitting at a table with my 4678 on my neck, but he's breaking down his history of the sport.
Do you think the records set on old track surfaces are still comparable to those set on the modern surfaces?
Yeah, that's pretty much what the calculation that 0.94 kind of says. And I've always felt that way because the preparation is still the same. It's
Yeah,
I mean maybe I think the only thing that possibly has changed for the better has been the recovery of the athletes.
I
I
was about to
think we
say
got
with all our physiotherapy
yeah,
and this and
yeah.
what's not, and all the
That,
thayer guns and
we
black
got the Cairo,
rolls
we got
and
the Cairo chambers. I mean, back, I mean, you probably had to go old school like we did with I mean, all and everybody does it. Trash can full of ice and water,
ice
put your butt
bath.
in there.
Yes.
That's just I can't say old school, new school. That's just school, period. But now they got the chambers you can get in. You can, I mean, and they're supposed to. I think if we're moving forward in the sport,
So, what are your thoughts on the current state of track and field, particularly in the 400-meter hurdles? Do you see anyone on the horizon who might break Ballholm's record? I mean, Ray won the Olympics, right? So he might be scratching
Yeah,
at it.
okay. Yeah, why you ask me? I got something to say. My big mouth got something to say. I definitely
I
got.
know. I like it. I love
Yeah.
it.
Well, first of all, the state of the hurdles, men and women, is beyond healthy. It's been that way for a number of years, and I've watched that. There was a time in which I literally watched. I thought I was going to watch challenges to my world record, and there weren't any. And like I said, it almost expanded for 30 years, so which is a blessing to me. I accept that, right? But I love the fact that we had the individuals Warham and of course Brian Benjamin. I'm gonna keep my eye on both those runners as well as DeSantos for years, and I have been pleasantly surprised by their running and their consistency. And now literally watching Rye race. And
I
it's the
said
crazy thing
Ray.
is just
I correct myself. I mean Rye.
no,
Sorry.
yeah, Ray
My bad.
Rye. We're safe if we call him King Ben. That's the
Yeah, I
name.
know that's
King.
why, but I didn't know if I could refer to him like
Yeah,
that
yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah, yeah. King. Be safe, King Ben.
Yep.
In any case, so just watch it. I mean, mentally, as a person, I pick the race. The race gets picked apart in my head. Um, as I see the runners run and I see how they apply themselves during the course of the race. So in my head, I'm taking away and putting and adding to where they can be running slower or faster. Where's the most optimal time in which they should utilize their speed? When is it necessary for them to run as fast in races? Where they shape, what are the step patterns that they should be applying? And with all honesty, Rye, over the years, Rye has been slowly trying to navigate his contribution to the race through injury, COVID, all type of things. And finally, I think he's now in a space in which he himself, his coach, they can sit back and have that dialogue and conversation about what he does best in the race. And I still believe, although he's run 46:12. We know that in the games against the world record holder. But this year, he run 46:6, 46:7, and was able to beat Warholm actually here in their second Olympic Games. And I think it's amazing, first and foremost, that the only constant consistency is DeSantos. He got 2/3 back to back, right? From
Yeah.
2020 to now. But those two guys flip flop. Carson still has, Carson's one up with the WR. However, I think that the rivalry between those two guys will continue to go on. As a person like me, I dissected the race. It was a race in which Carson proceeded to go 13 steps the whole portion of the race, something that he doesn't necessarily do. He literally steps up to 15 over the last two, lower palaver over the hurdles, a lot of power. Rye ran consistently.
Yeah,
But
but I
he
mean,
did.
King Ben was hungry and he ate in that
That was
stadium.
it. That,
No
you know what he did?
matter.
What he didn't do, he didn't get nervous. Not Rye, but Carson takes everybody out of their comfort zone with him blazing and blasting out like that and having no issue being out there in lane 8, 9, or on the outside. He has no. Usually hurlers are like, I don't want to be outside. I want to be tucked right in the comfort of the middle, so I can keep my eye on this person. I can watch for that person. With that guy out there, you don't. It's
He
unsafe.
was
You can
in
let it
his
go.
zone, in his box. He
Right,
was,
right. So the fact that Rye is a sub 22nd 200-meter run, so we know he has the speed to run the first part of the race. The question is between the first hurdle and the third and fourth hurdle, how much energy he's going to exert and try to run out and chase Carson. In the past, I've always said he needs to just relax and chill and let Carson comes to him. Carson tactics turned everybody crazy when we just saw what he does in his race, just going all out, and how it proved and served him efficiently uh, as being very successful in the World Championships as well as in the Olympic Games to set a world record. Um, but it's now getting to a point where okay, we're going to start watching DeSanto change his tactics now because he's going 12 steps between hurdles and it hasn't been as efficient as he wants it to go for him. Sydney going out breaking her world record every other
yeah.
weekend.
And
I
I
mean,
mean, this whole year has been crazy with Sydney and Femke, like race after race,
yeah,
and then boom, and another one, and it's just
I feel
insane.
so far. I feel sorry. And I mention this from my heart. I truly feel sorry for all the other hurdlers who aren't in that space. See, when we were running, Edwin was in that space, so we were all just chasing one person, really, in that space. We never, it took a minute for us to get there, but now you have two women, three men, and they're there. But the beauty of it all is, and you know this as well, as a hurdler, and we found even as a runner, nothing is really promised to you because if you hit
Yeah.
or clip any one of those barriers, you're on your butt.
Yes.
So it don't
That
matter. It don't matter if you Sydney, Femke, uh, Jasmine Giger. It doesn't matter if you Anna Cockrow. It doesn't matter if you Jasmine Jones. The effort is hardcore. It's the same, but we all know if you clip that hurdle and you don't hit it right, you're out the race. And so I think
or
that's the
even
edge.
it's so
That's the
funny that
edge
you
of
say that because now like a few years ago, I think it was 2018, I was running the 400 hurdles at the Young Diamonds Challenge at Weltklasse Zürich against Femke actually, and she fell in that race, and that's the
she
only
almost.
time
I
I
think
ever
she
beat
fell.
Femke.
I saw a race in which she fell. She fell so hard. She hit her head on the track so hard, like I because once she got herself a concussion. Because I remember seeing a race where she actually clipped the hurdle in the person's in the lane next to her. Her foot got caught, and when her foot got caught, she just took a header straight to the track, flipped over, and hit it and bounced. And to the shock of everybody in the race, it happened so fast. I mean, you don't even know that all that happened to they you
Yeah.
to, you know. It really doesn't matter who you can have the best skill set. I mean, if you don't negotiate those hurdles when they're needed in that time and space, you can end up on the track as opposed to running
Yeah.
on the track.
And I mean, you need to be healthy too and have that all intact. And even with the mental aspect, it's so important. And you never know what's going to happen. Like it's a consistent working progress to, you know,
It
keep you in the game
is.
and like have
It
that
is.
mindset of I want to be great, I want to be the best, but I need to work on it consistently, you know?
I love the fact that I'm even the dormant times when nobody was talking about Kevin Young as the world record holder. It's like each and every time they talk about the young hurlers of today, it's synonymous to them talking about me. So I really don't have to talk about, toot my horn like I used to in the past. And then it carries on to the Edwin. So it keeps the relevancy of the hurdles right there, up front and personal. And I'm loving, and I'm actually learning how to navigate through social media and use that as a tool for myself to stay even
Yeah,
more
I
relevant.
can
Let
see
everybody
that. And
know
I'm
I'm still
so
around.
proud of you. I love it. I
Yes,
support
yes,
it. But
yes,
even
yes,
like
yes.
with the whole social media and everything, I think we're seeing a more global attention on athletics, which is pretty awesome as well.
It's definitely getting bigger. I mean, I watched. We talked about the hurdles and how it really has emerged as an event in which the competition is such above board that it's amazing. And thanks to Edwin for having it at that level. I give him that. Him and all our top hurdlers. But now we got field events. I mean, we had a youngster that he broke his father's Olympic record in the was it the disc? And the guy from Lithuania in the was a lot no Lithuania. I can't think of what his name is, but he did that. He broke the world record this year. The unfortunate thing is he took second behind. I think this was in the disc. He took second behind a Jamaican discus thrower that I didn't see coming. Nobody. I mean, maybe those who really stay close to discus saw the Jamaican kid winning the discus throw in the Olympic Games. I didn't see it coming. Nowhere. So when you think about the sport and how it's being elevated, it's literally getting elevated from from every particular level you can name, from the Grand Prix level, Golden League level to the Diamond League level to now, obviously the international, the Olympic, the level itself.
Yeah.
With athletes just stepping up. I mean, and
Talking
even and,
about
and
Diamond
even
League,
just change.
will you be at Weltklasse Zurich this year in Zurich on the 5th of September? Will you be at the Diamond League meeting?
Yo, I bought tickets to go see Mondo in Vorheim. Well, my
I'm very
wife bought
sad.
tickets.
I was
My
about
wife
to
bought,
ask
she
you
bought
about
the
that.
tickets today already. She bought the tickets. She was like, yo, are we going to go see Mondo in Carson? I said, I'm there for, she told me, she, she called me after, and she was like, oh, I'm going to get tickets for that. And she just texted me like, I got tickets. I'm like, okay. I said, yo, do me a favor. Send me the copy of the ticket so I can post on my IG. And she was like,
Nice.
"You talking?"
I
She was,
saw
"What are you,
Weltklasse
what are
Zurich
you talking
posted
about?"
today. I might just get tickets and come join you over there, man. That's so cool.
Yeah,
But that's what I
no,
mean also with like the
no.
social
It's
media
a,
and
it's a,
everything.
it's a,
It's
it's a,
hyping it up.
exactly.
What should today's athletes keep in mind when competing on the different types of tracks around the world?
I think most important, they should keep in mind of their running spikes. I think these running spikes that they do have are, I mean, because case in point, you got a pair of running spikes that you're running on day in and day out. Your training spikes, and then you would have your competition spikes. You got to find that sweet spot where you have that particular pair of spikes that resonates on the surfaces in which you're running on. In the past, I don't think we had much. We had much variety. It was either a spike that was either broken in enough, um, and then you have folks who really. I mean, I know a lot of our sprinters. They typically like very fresh pair of spikes to run in. I typically like a break my spikes in a few times in training, and then even wear that particular spikes on the track. Um, but you know, different strokes for different folks. But yeah, I think athletes should just really most important they should watch the inserts in their spikes. I think if they mind that, um, if they wear an orthotics, I know athletes who do wear orthotics, they really typically do. But even nowadays, these little thin surfaces that they're putting inside the our running spikes, if athletes don't have their own personal orthotics to slip in those spikes, I think they're doing themselves an injustice because over the years you realize that that can complicate you. They're running with carbon fiber. I mean, it's like that's like a main ingredient in these shoes. I mean, not every manufacturer was putting carbon, put carbon fiber in shoes. I remember when Mizuno they had that wave technology. They started like the wave technology, and that wave technology was actually um, car, um remnants of carbon fiber layered in the shoe. But now with the Vaporfly and other shoes that they're racing in Puma and Nike and Adidas as well, they're using that as an instrument. So we'll see.
Finally, Kevin, if you could leave one message or piece of wisdom or advice from your journey for the next generation of athletes, what would it be?
I would say always be able to tell a story in your accomplishments leading up to your accomplishments because there's always a story that goes with what the athlete are doing, and they need to actually document that. I think because it brings about great conversation with younger athletes to let them know that they're not alone in their journey and the process. That we've done this, we went through the hard steps. Um, some of us have gotten to certain levels that others had not achieved, but we all know the same level and commitment that it takes to do something with all your heart and love.
Kevin, thank you so much for sharing your incredible journey with us today. It was an honor
You're
having you, and
welcome.
I hope to see you again soon.